Magic the Gathering is one of the oldest trading card games out there, so when it was first being made over 30 years ago, the design team had no idea what they were doing. Sir, this Soul Ring card might just be a bit too undercosted. Do you think we could increase... Okay, 6 mana for a 5/5 dragon. Early Magic sets were classics, but they were packaged with a lot of bad design. These are the banned mechanics of early Magic the Gathering. So for those of you who aren't degenerate gamblers, ante is a term used a lot in poker, meaning a stake put up by a player before receiving any of their cards. This is just the minimum bet that players put down before the game starts, and when Magic first started, it worked just like that. Before the game, each player would take the top card of their deck and put them both into the ante zone, and the winner of that game would get to keep both of the cards. Just like my dad gambled away my college fund at the poker table, early Magic players gambled away their precious cards. Hey there, little Timmy, you want to play a game of Magic?
Sure!
Great, so you anteed over a forest, and I got...
Oh, a Black Lotus! Gee, thanks for the fun game, mister! I can't wait to add this Lotus card to my deck that I play with my friends on the sidewalk, unsleeved.
So the issue is that players really didn't like losing their cards. If that sounds like gambling to you, that's because it legally is. Wizards of the Coast's expensive legal department spent years arguing that a card tournament for cash prizes wasn't technically gambling, but with the ante rule in place, there was no way that they could ever convince any judge of that. Eventually, cards referencing the ante stopped being printed after 4th edition in '95, and the rules were officially changed to have ante be removed from all forms of competitive and casual play. You know, I'm glad this rule was changed. I cannot imagine losing a card from a deck just because I flipped over the wrong card at the start of the game.
Did somebody say flipping cards?
Oh, god damn it. Falling Star is a bit of a strange one. Let's just read this shit together. Flip Star onto the playing area from a height of at least 1 foot. Star must turn 360 degrees or it has no effect. When Falling Star lands, it deals 3 damage to each creature that it touches. What? This card was printed in 1994 and it really shows. It's also not the only card that requires you to play Jenga with your cards. Chaos Orb is an old school staple. It destroys any card it touches. After flipping it from a height of at least 1 foot, obviously. Besides looking like the album cover to an 80s hair metal band, Chaos Orb is iconic, being one of the first cards put on Magic's banned and restricted list in 1994, alongside powerhouses like Black Lotus, Time Walk, and Dingus Egg. 90s Magic was wild. While you could make the argument that these cards are still somewhat balanced and wouldn't lead to super bad gameplay, some players are just unable to play with these cards. What happens if you break your hand? Is Armless Steve over there just out of luck for his next tournament? Sorry, Steve. So the previous 2 mechanics no longer exist due to just not being compatible with a game setting focused on strategy, but banding is a bit of the opposite. It's just shit. It's widely considered the worst mechanic of all time just because of how confusing it is. These are all the rules for how banding works compared to a normal combat keyword, like flying. There's videos out there that explain exactly how banding works, but they're a bit lengthy, so I'm going to try my best here. Okay, so a creature with banding can attack or block as a band with any amount of other creatures with banding and up to 1 additional creature without banding. You can attack or block with multiple different bands, but only if each band still meets the banding conditions, and if each creature can only be a member of each band at once. Once a band is declared, even if the creature with banding is removed from the band, the group is still considered a band. The control of the band decides how much combat damage is distributed and ordered within the band in the combat damage step, whether the band is attacking or blocking. So, what does this all mean? Simply, you get to decide how much damage each creature in a band is assigned from your opponent's blocker. You can make some tricky combat steps, but that's about it. No evasion, no power boost, nothing. There's a reason there are 0 cards with banding that see any competitive play anywhere. It's because it just sucks. It's a huge rule headache for very little upside, which means that a new card with banding hasn't been printed since 1997. I want to mention one more mechanic that is kind of banned, but you still see play all the time. Dredge is one of the main mechanics of the OG Ravnica set, and in the past 18 years, the mechanic has not been printed on a new card since. Well, besides that one time. Modern Horizon sets just don't count, alright? Dredge is an effect that allows you to replace drawing a card from your deck with putting a card with Dredge from your graveyard into your hand, and put the corresponding number of cards from your deck into your graveyard depending on how big the Dredge number is. The goal of this mechanic was to invoke the feeling of a creature or a spell that keeps coming back from the dead, able to be drawn and played over and over again. However, Magic players, they don't give a shit about flavor. They just want to break the cards. And Dredge is insanely easy to break. Cards that give you free value in the graveyard like Narcomoeba, Bridge from Below, and Dread Return allow this deck to play entirely out of the graveyard, as long as you have the support to get your dredgers into the graveyard. Some decks win by using a Dread Return to reanimate something that generally instant kills the opponent. Some just bring back a ton of stuff, but at the end of the day, they all work because this sneaky little bitch card here has the number 6 on the bottom. Back in 2005, Standard players used shitty blue creatures to put the cards from their hand into the graveyard, but as the card pool got older, the enablers just kept getting more powerful. Legacy has Lion's Eye Diamond and Vintage has Bazaar of Baghdad, both of which have insane price points for cards that you just use to put other cards into your bin. Modern had Faithless Looting, but this was way too good, so now Dredge just uses cards like Cathartic Reunion and Tome Scour. A bit weaker, but they still get the job done. Eventually, this led to the main offender, Golgari Grave Troll, to be banned in both Modern and Vintage. Well, there was this 2-year period where Grave Troll was legal in Modern. It was unbanned in 2015 because, I don't know, Hasbro executives are fucking masochists, but Cathartic Reunion was a bit too powerful of an enabler, so the Troll was banned again just a few months after the release of Kaladesh. Magic is full of broken, shitty mechanics, but eventually they figured it out and stopped printing ones that were game-breaking. Well, besides Discovery, and the Initiative, and Day-Night Cycles, and the Companions, and Monarchy. Oh, Partner Commanders, Infect and Phyrexian Mana, both those suck. Pitch cards, Delve,